Hi everyone, this is Penny from penny-astrology.com, and today I am answering the question that I know we all want answered, and that is will 2021 be better? Now, this is a yes or no question, and we are not going to get a yes or no answer. We're going to get a more detailed answer than that because, honestly, a yes or no answer isn't really that helpful. And if you're really, really committed to that yes or no answer, I'm just going to say yes. And that's not because the pandemic's going to be over. It's not because there's not going to be natural disasters. It's not because of any of that. It's because we are going to do our best to make it better. So that's where I'm at with this right now. Go ahead and pull out a cup of hot cocoa or tea or whatever your beverage of choice is. Leave a comment below to let me know what you are drinking, and we're going to get started with this reading. So what I'm seeing coming up in the future for us is basically a lot of disparity, a lot of people who feel like their needs aren't being fulfilled, people who feel like they're not actually getting what they need. Maybe they're not getting the economic relief that they need. Maybe they're not getting the emotional support that they need. There's a lot of people who are feeling that they're in a state of disparity in this coming year. Now, the good news is that this isn't necessarily just all about famine. It's not all about not having physical needs met. This card is a little bit more about not having emotional needs met. So still, most of us will have what we need to survive. Thank goodness we'll be able to pull through this, but we might be feeling a little bit disappointed. We might be feeling like things aren't quite what we expected or what we had hoped for, and it's not going to be a quick and strong recovery from this pandemic. And I think this is more so because we're realizing what a long road we have ahead of us. So socially, we are going to have, kind of these really close relationships going on in our lives. People we trust, people we console, people who we feel that we are able to agree with and see eye to eye with. And we form very strong opinions from within our own social circles, whether it's your spouse you're talking to, whether it's your best friend that you're talking to, or family members, people within our own circles. We feel a strong bond with them. These bonds will continue to get stronger. For some people, this is going to include a breakup, whether you already broke up with someone or you're kind of on the verge of breaking up with someone, but that breakup will be followed by a stronger connection coming on for you later in the year. So you're not going to have to be super alone all year. And I know I'm seeing this card that a lot of people are feeling that their emotional needs are not being met, but I am seeing these really, really strong social connections happening. So everyone is going to be forming and strengthening their social connections. Now, the negative side of this is that we're not all going to be on the same page. We have people who are kind of reclusive, couples who aren't communicating with the outside world as much since they may not necessarily have to leave home for work anymore. And we have politicians who have made private deals with one another who are not speaking about their ideas and their plans with others. So as a result, we kind of have a lot of people being secretive, mostly unintentionally. And I know with politicians, we roll our eyes and they're like, no, they know what they're doing. Well, maybe in the politicians' sake, they do. That's kind of just my opinion here. But for most of us, we're being somewhat unintentionally secretive and keeping others out of the ring, so to speak, keeping others outside of our own plans and our own ideas. So it might feel like it's harder to see eye to eye with people in the outside world. It might even feel like it's harder to make friends with people who are outside your own immediate circle. So the people we have connections with, they're going to be people that we already have things in common with, but we might feel like we're kind of acting more as individuals, and we have like kind of a more eclectic, eccentric set of ideas for what kind of progress should be made in the world. All right, and funny backstory, if you follow me on Facebook, especially if you have me on See First, you probably saw that earlier in 2020, I did a live reading on Facebook, which I wound up deleting soon afterwards because I had the lovers show up representing two politicians, and I basically found out more information than I was ready to share on a live video, and I got scared and I deleted it. So I'm sorry for that. But that is an example of how the lovers can come up politically. It's not always just about romantic relationships, although, who knows. Haha. Yes, I did imply something there, if you caught on to that. Anyway, so for what's going on economically, we're going to be seeing a lot of big changes. We're going to be seeing not necessarily like big, significant shifts in power, but we're going to start seeing some definitely noticeable shifts in power from like entertainment companies especially. I'm seeing entertainment companies losing popularity, and then other forms of entertainment kind of coming along and replacing those companies that were previously popular, that were previously powerhouses in the entertainment industry. And this card also means that we're going to be seeing a lot of new money and a lot of new power coming into the world in the year 2021. So if you've been setting some goals for yourself, whether they're career goals, whether they're financial goals, this is a really good year for manifesting that. It has a lot of really strong goal-oriented energy, and if you study astrology, you have already seen that in this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. Really good for goals, really good for ambitions. Now, the negative side of that is that it's going to be such a big night and day difference that we might even kind of feel like we have whiplash from all of the changes that are happening. We are breaking patterns in 2021. So if you have been predicting things that have been going on economically or in your life based on patterns that you have witnessed throughout your life, maybe even throughout other people's lives, maybe you've taken the time to look at people before you, which is wise of you. It's good to have those pattern recognition skills, especially if you're investing in stocks or something like that. But it looks like these patterns are going to be breaking in 2021. And it's going to be like night and day what a big difference it is, and how different it is from what we are actually used to seeing in our lives and in our own experiences. Okay, so economically, I am seeing that there is a young female leader who's going to be able to help the country that I live in, America, economically, and she's going to be making a lot of positive progress. Now, the negative end of that is there's basically a lot of sticks and stones and rubble to pick up from some of the economic downfall that we have experienced with, I don't even know what percentage of the population. My guess is like 60% of the population probably lost their jobs. I don't know. If you have statistics, feel free to share them below. I am interested in those. I can't remember the last time I tried looking up anything like that. But if you haven't taken a look at what's going on in your own community and considered the amount of people who have lost their homes, the amount of people who are still looking for homes and still looking for places to live, you might want to consider that, because there's basically a huge mess to clean up at this point. And we do have some good economic power coming in that'll have a good influence, that'll be able to help people and help kind of reconstruct and rebuild some of the economic downfall that we faced in 2020. But it's still a huge mess. It doesn't matter how wise, benevolent, amazing the person who swoops in to save us actually is. The point is that there is a very big mess to clean up at this point. But the spirits, I'm sorry, I dropped a card. the spirits are telling us that we do have some positive leadership. And, I'm seeing this owl as like a wise young female who kind of looks over us and tries to help us out. What I see in this card is I see AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and I'm seeing her coming into greater, more significant power in this coming year and having more say about what goes on economically. And like, my understanding of politics is fairly small, but if anyone wants to help me translate that, feel free. So this last set of cards is more emotional, more spiritual, and there was a lot of fighting in 2020. There was a lot of people who didn't understand each other, and we're going to have that at least at the very beginning of 2021. There's going to be some real nastiness that we are confronted with in January of 2021. But at some point in the year, maybe shortly after January, my first guess is February, early February. We'll check the transits in just a minute to see. But we are going to start to find some common ground with our enemies, start to be able to kind of see eye to eye with them and give them a little, like tip of the hat, understanding that we do actually have some things in common with them. And it'll ultimately help us find peace, not just with them, but also with ourselves. Now, the negative side of that is, even though we're kind of coming into a new spiritual beginning here, and there's a lot of new room for growth and a lot of new room for healing, there is still going to be baggage that we carried on our backs from the past and that we're bringing into the future. So that is what I have from the cards here. I want to take a quick look at what is going on astrologically. And again, I just want to emphasize that there are some transits and some combinations of planetary aspects that I find to coincide with specifically vehicular accidents, but really any kind of accident, any kind of injury. So there's going to be a higher risk of physical injury from reckless behavior, from anger, from emotions that are out of control, and perhaps even anxiety. There's going to be a higher risk of that in January of 2021. Now, the day that this is actually going to be worse is January 20th of 2021. That is when this aspect is going to be the strongest, and it basically has a lot to do with frustration. I would expect some uprisings on this day, and it's going to be happening both on an individual scale and having to do with groups. There's a lot of people who are just really angry, really fed up, and they feel like the changes that they personally need to see in the world are not happening as fast as they need them to. Now, this is something that's going on globally. So it's not going to be like just about the Black Lives Matter movement in America. It's not going to be just about the race wars that I've been hearing about in China or India. It's going to be kind of like about all of them. And here's the thing, generationally, it is going to have a heavy impact on both millennials, people who are born with Pluto in Scorpio, that is essentially what a millennial is, and people who are born with Pluto in Leo, which is a baby boomer, as we call them. So it's going to have really heavy impact on those people. Also, if you have any planets like your sun sign, your moon sign in Aquarius, in Scorpio, or in Leo, you'll want to be extra careful in the month of January, especially on January 20th, and especially if you have any of those planets within like even 10 degrees, I would say, of 6 degrees. Like, if that doesn't make sense, you might actually have to get a reading. If you want to leave a comment to try to ask a question, I'll try to answer it. I'll see what I can do. I can't guarantee that I can answer things for everyone for free though, but I do try at times. Because this is important, but really the point is drive safely, be aware that a lot of people are going to be losing their tempers, they're going to be losing their patience, they're going to be losing their freaking minds in the first month of 2021. Now, I've had a lot of people talk about how concerned they are about this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. which Jupiter and Saturn had been conjunct in 2020 as well. We also had the conjunction of, honestly, all three of these planets here were conjunct. There was a lot going on. And I'm different from most astrologers in that I do not attribute the entire pandemic, and I do not attribute everything that happened to the conjunction of these planets, because I also look at asteroids, and I noticed that Artemis was opposite. Artemis was over in Cancer, if I'm remembering right, at the beginning of the pandemic, in opposition to Pluto and Saturn and Jupiter in Capricorn. Now, if you want to know more about that, I made a whole video about it and like the different asteroids that I followed and how I actually managed to predict the discovery of the vaccine. Is discovery even the right word? I don't know. But the aspect that indicated that was so strong that there was actually two separate teams, at least that I had later found out about, who came up with a vaccine on that day that I had predicted. I think it was in May. I'd have to go back to my email list to check because I sent these predictions out via email. I think it was in May. It might have been in April. But yeah, it was basically just like, if you know how to read asteroids, it was like a huge obvious, like, of course people are going to come out with a cure on this day, because it was like the asteroid of medicinal cures and then the asteroid of science, specifically science having to do with medicine, like meeting up on that day. So it was like, oh, it was just like perfect. So basically scientists have been trying to figure out, whether or not the vaccine is safe all throughout the year. And I stopped looking further than October. And then it seems like right after October, like around November, December, they started actually talking about giving it to people. So that is good news in case you didn't already know about that. I know some people have mixed feelings about vaccines. I'm not going to publicly state an opinion on that right now because I understand both sides of the spectrum. But that's a whole nother thing. I just kind of wanted to emphasize that we do have a vaccine that is already being administered to people, I believe, like in Britain, and we're slowly starting to administer it in the United States as well. So that is becoming an option. I have been told that there are other strains of the virus that could be resistant to the vaccine coming up as well. So vaccine does not mean that pandemic is magically going to be over. There's basically a lot to look at astrologically here, so I don't want to sit here for too long. We're going to be coming into the new year also with Asclepius conjunct Vulcan. So that has to do with volcanoes and natural disasters, and also with medicine and science. So that to me, okay, for the record, this doesn't look like a natural disaster to me. This looks like research on a natural disaster. So it's more likely that we're going to be having someone like predicting something or coming out with some kind of discovery of some kind very early in the year. And I'm feeling like it might come from a kind of unexpected source. Someone who doesn't normally study natural disasters might actually be making this prediction. But it does look like it's coming through pretty strong, and it might be something that they somehow discovered on accident. That is really weird. That is a really weird aspect that I cannot logically make sense using my brain. Like, some things are so obvious, but then some things just aren't. There's going to be a lot of stress for mothers early on in the year. I feel like that's kind of a given. Let's go ahead and look at February. Let's pull ourselves ahead just a little bit and see what February is looking like. So February is already looking a little bit less stressful than January is. I think we're going to start to see some more of those changes that we want, kind of, what's going on energetically in the world. People are going to have like a different kind of approach to things. People are going to be operating with like a little bit more awareness of their surroundings. I'm feeling that People specifically want to be able to, nurture others and nurture themselves in a way that I am hoping will include also nurturing the environment. There is going to be some stress going on socioeconomically as well. That's really what all these red lines here indicate. That's a lot of socioeconomic stress. And then I'm going to go ahead and look into March. So as you can tell, I'm really just skimming through this. I'll try to do more horoscopes and stuff throughout the year. March does not look bad at all. March looks like it's a pretty good month. I feel that we'll start to see a little bit more progress in economic changes. We might have some relief and some positive progress made there that has created positive changes for us. And we probably will start to see that in the end of February. But then, by the time March rolls around, it's kind of like, whew, wipe the sweat off your forehead, y'all. It's getting better. So like I said, there's a lot of asteroids to look at here. I probably have to do that later on my own time. But I think that kind of gives us a reasonable start as to what's going to be going on at the beginning of 2021, and hopefully will kind of prepare us. If you have money invested in stocks, I think it's sound advice to, especially if it's like an entertainment industry, consider selling your stock shares, because I do feel like there's going to be some shifts of economic power, and there's going to be some new money coming in. So I would try to figure out who that new money is and who the big bosses in the entertainment industry are going to be, and maybe invest in those instead. So April looks like it's a really interesting month for things shifting, for things changing, and the way we feel about other people and how we're interacting with the world also kind of like growing and expanding. So there's definitely going to be some interesting things going on in 2021. As I said, I want to believe that this is going to be a better year. And, to some extent, it's up to us to stay optimistic, to handle what is thrown at us with grace, and just to try our best and decide, yes, it is going to be a better year. And I'm going to enjoy what I have, and I'm going to do my best to improve the things that I feel need to be improved. But anyway, that's about it. If you want to check the description for links or leave a comment, I'm probably just going to sit here quietly and look at these aspects a little bit more.